great tragedy, the effort, my God, that's before us. Lord, you said, Lord, your ways are not our ways, and our ways are not your ways. But Father, we pray, God, that you would minister into Rolling Fork, minister into the souls that are in need, those that have lost homes, those that have lost loved ones, Lord, those that have suffered loss. Father, you can restore the years the locusts have eaten. Father, you said to come unto me, all ye that labor and heavy laden, and I will give thee rest. Father, there are many that are out here working for God, but not working with God. And Father, we pray this afternoon, Father, that you would show forth your Son in righteousness. Father, you said in your word, Lord God, that I am the Lord, and besides me there is no other. Father, help the Rolling Fork to look to God and live. The scripture says, and look unto the hills from whence cometh our help. Our help coming from God who maketh heaven and earth, oh God.
This is a confirmed situation. This is not a drill. You need to get to somewhere safe, okay? And I think it's also important to point out this is quite a populated area. The tornado emergency is encompassing about 11,000 people. Within Rolling Fork alone, you've got about 1,100 people.
More than 24 people killed, an entire city basically destroyed. These are before and after satellite pictures of Rolling Fork. Virtually nothing left but rubble.
Jill and I are here to show our support. Unfortunately, I've been to too many sites like this over the last 2 years around the country.
Rolling Fork, Mississippi is a very small town located on the Blues Highway, Highway 61. It sits between the cities of Vicksburg and Leland on the map. According to the United States Census Bureau, the 2020 decennial census states that 1,883 people populated the town. In addition to this information, here are a couple of fun historical facts as well. Rolling Fork is known as the only city that is located in both Sharkey and Issaquena counties. The famous Chicago blues singer, McKinley Muddy Waters Morganfield, stated when he was alive that Rolling Fork, Mississippi was where he was born. The ceremonial Native American mound outside of Rolling Fork, called Mount Helena, still exists with the 1896 home of Helen Johnstone Harris and Reverend George Harris on top of it. And the town is known for its agricultural success as well. Sharkey, Humphreys, Carroll, Monroe, and Morgan. 4 counties located in Mississippi and 1 county in Alabama. All of these counties contain families that have lost loved ones on March 24, 2023 to a destructive tornado. This event was not only tragic, but something that many of us and even ourselves behind the camera can relate to personally in some way. On April 8, 2023, me and my team decided to make our way to Rolling Fork, Mississippi to capture the testimonies of different individuals that resided in this tight-knit community. The residents interviewed represent how the community has a heart to help their fellow neighbors rebuild and put their lives back together. Starting with an employee from the Deep Delta Drugs Pharmacy, we give each person a chance to talk a bit about their family roots growing up in Rolling Fork and transition into their testimonies surviving a powerful, nerve-wracking tornado.
I have lived here since I was 5 years old, so it's all I really remember. And it's always been home. Rolling Fork has just always been home.
I've been here ever since I was a child. And I worked around here all my life just about. And so I was growing around here. I retired from I worked for the city for about 8 years, and I worked at the Deer Creek Conference for what, about 32 years.
I grew up in Cary, Mississippi, well, on a plantation, Cary to Blanton Road. But I moved to Rolling Fork a few years ago, so where I graduated from Rolling Fork High School. So I've been in Rolling Fork ever since.
I grew up in Anguilla, so I went to school in Rolling Fork at Sharkey. My dad was the mayor of Anguilla. He was Merlin Richardson. So he was mayor for 36 years, or maybe 38 years. But anyway, my parents owned Deer Creek Compress Company here in Rolling Fork and Hollandale. So I've always been in the Delta. That's my husband grew up in Hollandale and then they moved to Lake Washington. So we're always been people that have lived in this area. And when we got Britton Furniture, it was kind of like we knew the community, but as the years went on, like our community has become stronger and I've met more friends being, having a public business. But no, so I've always been a local.
I was born and raised in Rolling Fork, Mississippi. I lived here until I finished high school in '86, joined the military. During that time, seeing the world, seeing what the world had to offer, trying to get myself established and make my own footprint, so to speak. And, I worked in this place when I was a kid, and I always had interest in it. And I used to tell my mom, I said, if they ever want to sell that place, let me know. So, once it came up for sale, I kind of found myself coming back home, with a sense of purpose, to bring something to the town, something that's lacking. It's been a poor town, and it's been in decline for quite some time. So I just kind of made a effort to come back home and do my part to get Rolling Fork back on their feet, so to speak.
We originally lived in the area and then went to school and moved out to Houston, Texas for 13 years where we had our daughter. And then roughly 14 years ago, we moved back home and have been here ever since.
I have lived here my whole life. I went to Sharkey Aspen Academy, graduated, and then I went on to East Mississippi in Starkville, and then I graduated from Delta State University with elementary education. And I taught at South Delta Elementary School for about 5 to 6 years, and then I moved on. Once my mother was having health issues in her gift store, I moved to help her with her gift store.
I grew up in Jackson. I met my husband at Mississippi State, moved here, drastic change. Just never thought I'd end up in a little farming community, but I love it. I mean, we like being here.
I mean, you can see it started on the west end of town and it came right up through the middle. It hit the highway, jumped it, and went right on out toward Humphreys County. And it's just totally devastated the living population as well as the community in general.
So I was actually in my living room in my house, and my best friend Lacey, she called me, she FaceTimed me, and she has a little boy that I love. He stays the night with us once a week, and he's just everything to me. So it was around 8:30, so I said, my husband and I were going to watch a movie, and he had actually said, let's watch it upstairs. I said, no, let's watch it downstairs. Let's go get some pizza, and we can eat pizza and watch a movie on the couch. And so she FaceTimed me around 8:30, and I was like, I'm not going to answer. We're in the middle of a really good movie. And then I was like, well, what if Jack, her little boy, is wanting to tell me goodnight? Because he calls me every night to tell me goodnight. So I answered and I said, Lacey, I'm in the middle of a really good movie. And she said, Tanya, you'll need to take cover. There's a tornado on the ground. And I said, Lacey, I said, you're being dramatic. I'll call you back. And she yelled at me and said, Tanya, get under the stairs now. So I said, Matt, Lacey's saying, we need to get under the stairs. And at that time, actually, I looked at my phone and I'd gotten some messages from Chloe, my boss, saying, y'all need to take cover. Charlie said it's on the ground and headed straight to Rolling Fork.
I was in Glen Allen, Mississippi at the junior senior prom. But by the time I left, we were trying to have the prom somewhat normal, like we could. This was before we knew the gist of how big everything was. So, we're saying, okay, we're going to start the music. Let's just keep going. They, did the prom king and queen, did the whole shebang. And then more texts and phone calls and everything starts coming in. So parents are calling us saying, okay, it's okay for my child to leave. So Glen Allen is 20 minutes from here. It took me 2.5 hours to get home. Because I could not go through town. This road right here is what we call the cutoff road. There's a little area down here, down this way, that was completely gone. I mean, there's nothing. Like, there's not a house standing. There was probably about 4 or 5 houses. Probably about 6 or 7 trailers. They're all gone. So all the power lines and everything were down. So I couldn't come in this way. So I went all the way down to Anguilla and tried to come up through 61, even with all that going on, and they would not let me through. So I had to come back around, go all the way around to Myersville to Onward and come up. But it took me 2.5 hours to go 15 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was in Delta City. We were watching The Voice, a recorded version of The Voice. And my mother-in-law called and she said, y'all need to check the news. The weather's getting bad. So we turned on the news and then instantly it was a tornado might have hit the ground and take caution, take caution. So I called my friend and I said, you need to take cover. You've got to get under your stairs. And she was like, no, I'm watching a movie. And I said, no, you need to take cover, get under the stairs. And by that time I was getting my little boy, because my girls were with my mom, getting my little boy going to the bathroom, and we were standing in the bathroom, taking cover in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's we are always watching out for weather here. A lot of communication between friends and family, and always checking on one another. I can remember that day. I had asked my neighbor. Her husband's truck was parked out in the parking in their driveway right there, and I had an extra space in my carport, and I said, the weather's supposed to get bad tonight, possible hail. Would you like to park Patrick's truck in my carport? So after work, she parked their truck in our carport, and that's just kind of what we were thinking. The weather was going to get bad. I watched it all day. It continued to say that it was going to get, the time frame was going to be between 9 and 11. When I got off of work, I told Donna that I needed to go feed our horses in Holly Bluff, nearby area, and wanted to get on back before the weather got bad. I also wanted to pick up some gas for the generator in case the electricity went out.
I've seen tornadoes, but this here was the worst one I've seen come through here. And it put me in the mind almost of something like hit Cairo and Delta City and Calmeda and parts of Cairo, But this here, they say this is the worst tornado ever come through the state, United States, and it really done a whole lot. But when the tornado hit here, I was sitting in the living room, and it sounded like a bunch of trains was coming this way. And that's why the wind was blowing, and it heard tin flying and everything. It hit just like that. It's a flash of 3 minutes, and then by that time they went to leaking in the house right there, and that beam come down through there and hit right there. Then the water went to run in the living room. I said, let's move the couch. I moved the couch, the rest of the room, got in the hall and laid down. I never did move. I said, the Lord knows whatever coming, I ain't gonna be in the front of that glass. I just went back, slid down like that, and it come right across this way. Looked like it was coming, it was like a Y. It was coming this way, it was spreading.
8:15 that Friday night. Usually on Friday nights, like we cook out. We have friends come over, whatever, just what most people do. But we knew that it was supposed to be raining and yucky, and so, we were just, Brad and I were home by ourselves. And anyway, I had gone to the grocery store we left at 5, and I had gone to Stop and Shop and bought stuff to make tacos. Went to the Mexican restaurant, got cheese dip and salsa to go with it, and had cooked and everything. And I was actually sitting there. I had the TV on channel 16 out of Jackson, and David Hartman was on there. And most of the stuff was south of us. And all of a sudden he said East Carroll Parish, which is in Louisiana, which is basically on the other side of the Mississippi River. And where we live, we can actually see the levee from our house. So we're like really close to the Mississippi River. So anyway, my mom lives in Anguilla, and so I'm always concerned about her because my dad passed away 2 years ago, so she's at home by herself. So it had been raining and stuff. I mean, we had the carport door open. We have 2 dogs. They were going in and out. My husband was outside under the carport, and our lights went out.
When the tornado hit, I was actually on my way to Mississippi. My wife was in the building. We would alternate. I would work in Florida 2 weeks. I come home and run my building 2 weeks. So I was in the process of coming down. I was told, wait before you come because the storm is heading that way. So I kind of, I was traveling. I kind of like waited around Jackson area until the storm passed. And, then I started getting all kind of phone calls, and you couldn't even get it in town.
My wife and I had just got back eating with Jay and Leanne Martin, good friends of ours at Onward Store. We sat, shared a meal, didn't even know a storm was coming. I knew there was a chance of rain and some storms, but as far as a tornado, I had no earthly idea. We got to the house, and I guess we got home 7:45. I'm ballpark guessing that. I went in and flipped the TV on, and I was sitting on the bed in the bedroom, and my wife's phone rang, and it was her daddy who lives in Cleveland. And he said, y'all got to take cover. This is a bad one. I go to the back door. I open it and walk out on the back porch, and I told her, I said, I don't see any lightning, don't hear any thunder, it's not raining. And that's kind of always what I've done on a tornado. I've always wanted to go look, see what the weather's looking like outside, which I won't do anymore. I go back in, and she's still on the phone with him.
She was in the building. She was actually had just closed the store. And so she would normally, the building was so large, it was a multi-purpose building. So we would have a convenience store. We'll have like a little pool room. Up top, we had 5 rooms, which is the Airbnb. And then downstairs, we had a lounge and a big conference room that people would come and rent for a funeral repast, or if you want to throw a party, I would rent that out to you, So she was in the, she was upstairs, and she told me she can remember my cousin say, when the storm comes, you don't need to be upstairs. You need to go downstairs. She said that's what saved her life. She could hear my cousin tell her that. She said she went downstairs, and she was in the center of the building. At that point, the dog jumped out of her hand and ran into the kitchen. And so she said by the time she was trying to run with the dog, she could hear the tornado chopping up the building, chop, 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 chop. And before you know it, she said all the glass exploded, and she had her back turned to the windows, and the glass went in her back, So she by the time She said pass. She said the lights just popped on, and there was a storm chasers pulling her out the building. So they pulled her out, and they took her to Vicksburg to the emergency room.
And that was like 2 minutes before Lacey called. And so I said, Matt, this is what's going on. And he moved my car right in time to the neighbors. We don't have a garage, so he moved it on the carport in the neighbor's house. We had asked him previously if it got bad, could we just move my car that I just got a month ago? And he had said yes, so he moved it. And as he was coming in the house, he said, Tanya, it's right there. Like, he was almost getting blown away. Like, I was waiting on him at the door. And so he made it inside, and he said, go get under the stairs. And he didn't even have there's a door under the staircase, and he didn't even have time to close it before it was right on top of us. And the roof was gone, and water started coming down. And at that time, I knew that we didn't have a roof if water was getting in, and all we could hear was shattering and trees breaking. And we were actually holding each other, but it was so loud that we were screaming to get to hear each other. And I said, Matt, I said, this is it. I said, I love you. And he said, it's okay. I love you too. And in that moment, I thought that I would die in my 23-year-old husband's arms.
I don't think there was much of a warning. We do have a siren, but it never went off. But I don't think it had time to go off. From my understanding, it started in Lake Providence, and when it got here at 7:57, it got on the ground, and by 8:10 it had gotten to an F4 and was gone. So within 10 minutes of it hitting touch ground in Myersville, by 8:10 it was gone.
And as I was on my way home, I had forgotten to get the gas jug, so I turned around and went back and got it. And as I was coming into town, I needed to stop by a friend's house and pick up some medicine for Donna. And I stopped and left the truck running. It was just about dark. I can remember that she had the TV on, the basketball game was finishing up. She had her phone and laptop right there next to her on an iPad, and we talked for a few minutes. She was waiting on her husband and son to pull up any second now. And about that time, I told her, I said, Casey, I needed to get on back to the house. And before the weather got bad, Shay and Parker, who she was waiting on, was on their way home. And as I was walking to the door, I could hear a noise, and I turned back to her and I said, do you hear that?
When it spread, in less than 3 seconds, it was over with. You hear stuff falling from the air, dying down, and I got up and I peeped out the window. I could see the leg of the wall was standing up in the air, far falling from it. Less than a split second, the whole Shocker County was dark. Just like that. So I said, well, Lord, you did take care of me, bring me through there. And next thing I know, I looked out across the highway, you couldn't see. So many polices and cars and ambulance running.
So I was trying to get the TV back on to see what the weather was saying because of my mom. When I finally got the TV back on, David Hartman was yelling, if you live in Rolling Fork, take cover now. This tornado is a mile wide. Well, my husband's yelling at me from the carport, telling me to come outside and look at this. And I don't know if you're familiar with East Prong, which is between Rolling Fork and Myersville. You could actually see, I don't know if we actually saw the physical tornado, but it was pitch black that way. And it was lightning everywhere back towards East Prong. And it was like almost a buzzing sound that you could hear. So I told him, I was like, they said a tornado's about to hit Rolling Fork. And I called my friend, Katie Wyndham, who lives out that way by us. And she said that she was fine. Her husband is actually the sheriff of Essequibo County. And she said Way was on his way to Rolling Fork. The next person I called was Tracy Harden, who owns Chuck's Dairy Bar, who's a good friend of ours. And how her phone worked, I have no idea, but she was screaming that she and other people were in the cooler. And she was like, we cannot get out. And I was like, okay, we're coming to get you. We're coming to Rolling Fork. You know, we're on our way. Well, like I told you earlier, it took me and my husband an hour to get into Rolling Fork. And we never made it to Chuck's. We didn't go past Britain Furniture that night.
The tornado hit Rolling Fork. I said, I heard it's coming, but he said, no, your building is gone. I'm like, nah, don't, it's not true. Because he always played the games with me. So, and when he called me, he said, we don't know where your wife's at because the lines are down. Nobody could get, and so we don't know if she got blown away because everybody next door to us in this structure here, at the Family Dollar, everybody next door died. So I thought she was gone until she called me from the hospital and told me she was okay. And so I called everybody, let them know that she was okay. But it was. I mean, my mom's house was here. Then we got my neighbors right next to her, Miss Bessemer now. They had to pull her out, you know. So it was just trying to find out where everybody was located. My brother, he's right down the highway from me, and 11 people back there died. He was in a trailer park. So when they found him, he had the carpet wrapped around him, and he was in a state of shock, you know. So I'm just trying to get into town and just, you know, process all the information and, you know, get accountable for who was, you know, who we can get accounted for, you know. Hearing that some of my friends had died, you know, that was, you know, and I can only imagine if I was here because, you know, I know what part of the building I would have been in, and I wouldn't be here. I know. So God had me away for a reason because, you know, I know exactly the spot that I would have been trying to wait a storm out, and that spot got totally wiped off the map.
When I was coming into town, we rolled down the windows and we could just hear all the screaming and crying from all the people. It was horrible. They had stretchers on the side of the road, and all you could hear was sirens, ambulances, and police officers, and it was just horrible. I finally made it to the back street close to her home. You couldn't drive anywhere because the power lines were down. And as soon as we got her, we just started checking house to house. We went to several family members, neighbors, checking on them, and it was horrible. When you could see when your headlights would shine on houses, you could see just how bad it truly was because it was dark. It was raining. The weather was still bad. But the next morning coming into town was a whole nother
Story.
level. Yeah. It was heartbreaking, to say the least.
Everything was here. It was pitch black dark when the tornado hit. It was pitch black dark. But you could hear people hollering for help. But you couldn't see the people. But you could hear people screaming and say, help me. But it was so dark, you didn't know where the voice coming from. Because when it came through, it just came through like a train. It just came through picking up and keep it moving. So when the tornado, it was just, at first it was just your phones went off. Your alarms on your phone went out. That was the tornado right there. We didn't even have time to take cover.
And then about that time, I turned my head back and I could see the headlights pull into the driveway, which was Shay and Parker. And it took my mind off the sound. And I said, well, I'm getting onto the house. They just pulled up. See you later. And so I walked out the door, focused on Shay and Parker, waiting for them to get out of the truck. And as I took about 3 steps out of the carport, the wind just picked up to, I don't know how fast, but debris started to just hit me. And I did not even look where it was coming from. I just took and ran back into the carport. And I made it to the corner of the carport. And then by that time, the house just started coming apart. And as the wall came down on me, I just went with the wall. And it seemed like a split second, and then it was completely quiet. And all I could hear was Parker. I could hear Parker hollering and screaming. And I started hollering, since I figured I could hear him that well, I started hollering for Shay. And then I started hollering just for help. And then I stopped hollering completely. And by that time, I looked up and I could see a little lightning. And so I just started pushing, kicking bricks and things, whatever the debris was, and made it out of there. And started just to kind of feel my way, and back to where I could hear. By then I could hear Shay and Parker hollering for Casey. And I made my way back into what there was their living room. And by that time, Casey was starting to respond, saying that she was fine, but she was trapped.
Dog's right by me. And same thing, I kind of look and listen, and she screams at me. She said, Daddy said we got to go now. It's here. You know, I'm still thinking it's going to be a little bit of wind blow through like normal, maybe a little bit of rain. Anyway, she's kind of in the middle of the house. I'm at the carport door, and as I turn around to go toward her, I slap my leg, and the dog, Finn, follows me straight on. We go straight to the bathroom closet, which is off of our bedroom on the east end of the house. The storm came from the west. We walk in the closet, and right here on the right is a row of clothes, and we just kind of go down under the clothes. The dog is under me. Susan's right here, and we just kind of lay over. I'm thinking, you know, this is going to blow through. We're going to get up, and everything's going to be okay. We might have been in that closet 5 seconds, 6, maybe. And it cut loose. The closet had a crawl space going into the attic in the top. And 10 feet behind that crawl space is the vent that goes onto the back porch, which is, we had a covered in tin. Well, that crawl space more or less disintegrated.
We were talking to Way, trying to tell us which way to go because he was ahead of us. Finally got into Rolling Fork. Some friends of ours were already there, and they had already called us to tell us that we had nothing left. I mean, it was just pure disaster. Words can't even describe what our little town looked like that night.
Several times, and Shay was just trying to get to the door, but his safe, they had a hallway, and the bathroom door was here, where the safe was in this other room, and the wind took the whole wall and his safe, and then tilted the safe over, so the wall had the doorway closed. There was no access to the bathroom anymore. And Shay was trying to figure that out, and I just grabbed Shay's shoulders, knowing that Casey was okay but trapped, and Parker was there, and he's like, what just happened? And I said, I don't know, but I've got to go find Donna.
Rolling Fork is gone, and the people don't know what to do because they ain't never been in a tornado. They heard about a tornado when their mother used to say about a tornado, but they haven't saw it for themselves. And as you being grown and seeing it for yourself, because I remember as a little girl in 1971, when Mama said, baby, I throwed you in my arms and the house opened up like a cardboard box. But just seeing that for myself while I'm grown and hear that train coming. So now how it affects you mentally is anytime you hear a noise like a train and the weather get bad, you gonna think it's a tornado. Mm-hmm. So you gonna get yourself prepared and ready anytime, because we didn't even have a warning when it hit Rolling Fork. So it have devastated the people, because a lot of our black people, African Americans, is not homeowners. We are renters. So now when the homeowners is not going to be a back. And the renters don't have nowhere to stay but in the different hotels at the Red Cross. You seeking and praying that you going to find somewhere to stay, you and your family. So it have devastated these people in Rolling Fork, Mississippi, from not only mentally, but physically, because they don't know where to go. They don't know who to reach out to, because so many years from back then living on a plantation, and you haven't been taught what you need to be taught. It's hard now for people to survive.
Coming through that crawl space was so strong. We were on the wall of the closet. It felt like it was fixing to push you through the wall. It was that strong. You know, I knew we had never had that kind of wind or all. And people say, I saw a tornado and it was a train. I heard the train. Well, it wasn't a train to me. The best way I can describe it to you, if I took you to the Dallas airport and I took one of those big jet airplanes and I set it in the roof of your house and just gapped it open, that's what it sounded like. The force was just, I mean, it was unreal. That started, and I'm guessing this thing might have lasted 15 to 20, 30 seconds. I don't know. I don't remember. We're laid over, and when that starts, I hear the porch. I knew it was gone. I could hear it crinkling, and I knew what was going on. Well, by this time, we're just laid over. And when I get my head to where I can half tell what's going on, I'm looking, the wall's gone. And, well, the wall is on top of us. It has fell over us. And I kind of get my head worked around where I can see there's a hole. And I'm going, oh my gosh, the wall's gone. I have no idea the house is gone, none. Well, she's behind me, and she keeps patting me on the leg saying, we're okay, we're okay. I said, no, the wall's gone. Well, you can tell the wind has quit. And so I start trying to crawl out. I see the hole, and it's dark outside, and what I'm looking at is kind of up, and I can tell the tops of the trees are just gone. It's just ripped. I get out, I get her out, I get Finn out, and as we stand up, we're right at the back of the house. I'm just, you're shell shocked.
Time I was in flip flops, so I was barefooted. So I climbed through the window and went around to my truck, just thinking I had another pair of shoes in my truck. That's just what I was thinking. And my truck was still there. I put on another pair of shoes and ran down 2 blocks to the house, and Donna was outside. And we went, my dog was in the back of my truck, and she survived it with not a scratch. So she was very lucky. Then I got changed clothes, and we went back down there to get her. And again, by that time, Shay had gotten Casey, was able to get to Casey and get her out of where. And by that time, her Shay's brother and sister-in-law, co-worker that I work with, Susan Perry, they live right next door. And by that time, they were in the street trying to find, trying to help any and everybody, and making sure that everybody on the street was okay. Their street had, I know that there was at least 10 of us that were there that night, and all the houses, there was only a few walls left standing, and by miracle, we all survived. I mean, Shay and Parker rode it out in the pickup truck. There was just so many miracles that happened in Rolling Fork, and then by that time, this part, it just shows the kind of people and community that we actually are. There was so many people in the streets trying to help everyone. Whether it was people that had access to tractors close, they were trying to already get debris out of the roads that night.
I would just remember dropping to the floor, getting under some mattress, and it picked the mattress up. The house shook, the structure of the house. You can hear like pick up, the wind was so strong. It picked up the roof and to set it back down. And I just picked up the mattress and I was laying up against the wall. But it was just a matter, it was just like, it wasn't even a minute. All this devastation, it told the whole town of Rolling Fork, I can say less than 10 minutes. All you heard after, people hollering for help. You had sirens, you had fire trucks, you just heard all kinds, because it was so dark, it was raining, it got real cold.
Yeah.
They had so many people was here, immersive people. And all you could see is blue lights up and down the highway where they was picking up bodies that had got hurt in the tornado and taking them to Vicksburg, to Greenville, wherever they could get help at. And then some was helping just right on side the highway. So I went to the National Guard Armory where they was set up for like a hospital, because it was so many people that was hurt that people was taking them in their cars, trying to get them to the nearest hospital.
The neighborhood's gone, the trees are gone. Well, as soon as we stand up, I started hollering. My brother and his family live next door to us, and Dana and Daryl Dew live on the other side. Well, Dana and Daryl answered pretty quick. I knew they were okay. Their house was half gone, 3/4. They answered, so I turned to go to my brother's house, which is just across the yard. We live next door. And I started hollering, Shay, Shay. Finally, he hollers. Okay, I know he's okay. His wife and son, I hadn't heard. It takes me, I don't know how long. The backyard's just like this. I make it through the backyard to him, and he and his son are right here. I guess I'm standing on a fallen tree, I assume. I don't remember. They had just turned into the driveway coming home from Vicksburg as the storm hit. He had no idea what he was driving into. In fact, his son was videoing the weather as they came down the street to turn in the driveway. Well, as they turned in the driveway, he shut the phone off. And I didn't know this till Ben is his son's name is Parker, but I call him Ben. It's a long story. Ben said, I tried to open the door and it slammed it so hard it knocked me back in the truck. Well, when the storm started and Shay realized what was going on, he laid over Ben. It took his truck, and there was another truck in the driveway, a friend of theirs. It slammed it into it and then spun it around. If the truck hadn't been there to get slammed into, it would have rolled it through the yard, ended up who knows where.
We were kind of I think everybody was in shock that was here, that had went through it. And you think back on it, and it was just people everywhere walking around like just dazed and confused. It was like we did not know what had happened. A good friend of ours that came over and checked on us later in the night, he came by this morning, and I said, I guess you thought I was just a crazy person that night, because when he came here, I had Joseph in the recliner, he was bleeding, and I was just wanting the bleeding to stop. And he said, Donna, I didn't think that. He said, you were just in shock. And I think we all were. But even though we were in shock, everybody came together and we were all just trying to help each other.
Well, Dev got out of the truck and I make it to the top of the tree and he can't find his wife, Casey. Well, I'm standing on top of this tree or wall, I don't know what it was, and she hollers. So she's right here in the house. She had gotten the bathtub. The wall fell over her, pinned her in the tub, which was good. She was protected. And anyway, we get her out of the house. Daryl and Dana are coming out of the house, and then we start crossing the street. We have some elderly neighbors, and we go to start seeing how they are. You couldn't, there were so many trees and so much debris, you couldn't even walk down the road. You know, then you get to thinking, what if the power lines are hot? And had no idea that every power line around was down and it had shut all that off. But just total, the best way I know to describe it, you took a huge blender and threw everything in it and hit the button and then pulled the cap off and let it blow it out. That's what it resembles. The next morning, I knew it was going to be bad. It was bad that night. Within, I don't know, I'd probably tell you 15 to 30 minutes, and I'm guessing on that, you could not believe the people from around town and on the outside edges of town that had come to town with backhoes and tractors with front end loaders and were shoving the streets and taking people. It was just, you just can't imagine the force that appeared and stayed here. They were here for not just that night, but man, a bunch of the local farmers came to town on their track hoes for the next 4 or 5 days and cleared streets and yards. And but everybody just kind of descended on Rolling Fork. And if it wasn't for that, I don't know where we'd be right now.
I tell you one thing, was some of us was lucky and some wasn't. Mm-hmm. But you know one thing about this here? You live, you learn. And I ain't never seen nothing like this happen. Anytime a wind that strong tear the steeper top off of the courthouse, that was some wind, wasn't it? The wind picked up a tree in the front of the courthouse, and the roots was picking some of the front end of these cars.
Picked it up.
It picked it up and laid it out there on the side of the road.
Picked up trucks, cars off the highway and set them all, almost a mile back to the woods off the highway, where you found people, their bodies was found, that the wind had picked up and tossed them in another area where they didn't even stay. So it's very devastating as you walk around and see all the losses from the houses and stuff. So we just praying and hoping that this rebuild of Rolling Fork be stronger. Mississippi Strong, that we call it. Mm-hmm. And we just hoping and keep praying about it. Because it's devastating here. It's a lot of devastation.
All the 72 years I've been around here, I've seen a lot of things happen. But this was the worst storm ever come through Mississippi. It's the worst one come through. But in Cairo, I seen it took them butane tanks, carried them across the highway, and shot them in the creek. But this here was worse than that, what happened in Cairo. Mm-hmm. And I seen this down the road right over in there. Took a piece of iron post, where the cow passed the post, and drove it through that tree. Above it, they drove a piece of tin through that tree. That tree is twisted like a twisted peppermint stick.
That's how strong that wind was in a matter of seconds. That's how strong that wind was. In a matter of a second. It came through, uprooting, moving, uprooting, moving.
It took a tree and carried across over there where my sister lived at. Crossed the top of another house and took an 18-wheeler and rolled it up and thrown it in the front of the house.
The only reason we lived is because God said it wasn't time. I'll get choked up talking about it. But the houses were destroyed. I mean, my kitchen cabinets and countertops, what was left of my house. The rest of it, I have no idea where the roof even went. I rode around the neighborhood a couple of days later and couldn't even find it. It was gone. But just the destruction, you know, thank goodness we didn't lose our life, because several people did. And when you look at it, to know no more people that died than it did is it's pretty incredible. But we've just kind of been going from there, trying to make a game plan for everything and put it all back in order.
And my nephew, he didn't know why his truck went. And down the road from that, my dad's property down there, they ain't seen none of them houses. All you see is some trash where houses were set.
Debris. All you see is debris. As you go ride around Rolling Fork, you'll see the debris. A lot of people, pictures have been found miles away from Rolling Fork. So as you walk the grounds and take pictures, you'll see the debris where school buses been tossed around, 18-wheeler cars, people houses, just everything tossed around.
Right cross over there, that's the bus barn for the school. Just about every
school bus, they blowed the windows out and took a couple of them buses, the back door open, and throwed it back and bend it back, and you can't pull it back. That's how strong.
And you know, God got all power to do anything He want to do.
Mm-hmm.
People talk, but they don't know. See, I sat here and I'm a living witness for it. I heard it, I seen it. But one thing about it, when I come out here, that house right over there had 10 in it, top of it, 10 all around my house. Some of it, you don't know where it come from. Some come right there from that complex, that school. It blows some of that all over here in the yard. We had debris everywhere. They both
the furniture store place off the highway.
Right there?
Well over here in Pop's yard. But it came from off the highway. And that furniture that wind tossed it well over here.
Yeah, really. It come from that way. It was in a wire. But that wind hit it and blowed it back this way.
Mm-hmm.
They had stuff from somebody else's house. They had couches all over there. They had tree limbs. I had a plum tree in the back and took that plum tree and broke it down just like somebody cut it with a hatchet. They left the other part there and I had the boy that cut it off of them. They drug it out there so they picked it up. But you know one thing? Less than 3 minutes, the people was up in here and told we had to move out from here. Is so much gas smelling up in here?
They cut the gas off. They had to cut the lights off. They had to do all that there. Not only just saving lives, because with this tornado, gas was smelling. So they had to hurry up and find in the darkness, find how to cut off the gas line. The light poles, the electricity was sparking. They had to do all this here. Why try to save lives?
You see one of them fireboxes? They blow one of them off the pole. I think it's right there.
Mm-hmm.
And my neighbor house right there. It blowed her light meter off the wall. My neighbor over there blow his light meter off, blow mine off, and then bars are dead right there. But you know, things, you know, God do things in funny places, and you know why He want to hit. You know, I woke up I come back up here that Saturday morning and looked in the house, water all in the house. Had glass all in the back room. We swept the glass out the back room where my kids slept there. And, you know,
It's devastating.
Many residents in Rolling Fork, Mississippi, like these individuals, lost everything from the people that they cared about to their homes, their businesses, their way of life, in addition to their physical and mental health. Rolling Fork, a town that was once standing and a home to many, was destroyed in the shadow of a storm overnight. In addition to the heartbreaking testimonies of how each resident lived through the night, we also want to shed light on the people that tracked the Rolling Fork tornado themselves, witnessed how the 1-mile-wide tornado torn through the town, and had a part in rescuing people that were screaming for help. Their reasons of becoming storm chasers truly revealed how passionate they truly are.
I've always been a weather nerd ever since I was a little kid. I lived in Oklahoma for a little while, and they have a lot of wild weather there too, like Arkansas. And I was the kid that would watch the news late at night to like watch severe weather coverage. I would watch it over and over, like replays on YouTube. I just never stopped studying it as I grew up, and then when I got into high school and then eventually I went to college, I really started to take it serious and study it more, and then start storm chasing. I wanted to experience it in person, and it took some courage, to do it eventually, but I felt comfortable in doing it, and here we are 7 years later. So
always grew up with my dad. We watch local news coverage and stuff of storms whenever we would run outside when the tornado sirens went off, and that was kind of what we did in the spring together. But in 2014, my senior year of high school, we had the Valonia EF4 tornado in central Arkansas, and just seeing the damage and the impact it had on the community that was very near to me. Just kind of put this drive into me that the tornadoes fascinate me. I want to see them, but at the same time, I want to be out there if I can help somebody, help save a life, get eyes on the storm, and then be there for the immediate impact after there to kind of to help people and help save some lives.
When I was like 5, 6 years old, that's when I got interested in weather. I was actually really scared of thunderstorms, in particular, like lightning. I was terrified of lightning, and one day I just so happened to be looking out the window of the car while we were driving down the road, and I was looking out and I saw lightning. I saw lightning strike out my window, but I wasn't hiding from it. I was just looking at it casually, and I was like, "Wow!" I was like, "Wow, that was so cool!" And then I turned around and told my dad that I saw the lightning and I wasn't afraid, And that kind of sparked this curiosity in me. So after that, I ended up going to, the library, checking out a bunch of books about tornadoes and lightning and just thunderstorms, weather, all that stuff. And started watching the Weather Channel. I started watching, anything about weather. And from there, I started to get more curious about, hey, what does this stuff look like in person? I wanted to actually see it for myself instead of just looking at a video. So eventually, I convinced my dad to take me out and go chase a thunderstorm nearby. And we didn't really see a whole lot, but that slowly grew into, hey, let's go, an hour away, let's go 2 hours away. And at some point it ended up becoming, hey, let's go to Mississippi. And but yeah, it really just was a fascination, and then that ended up turning into a passion for just wanting to document severe weather and experience it, because being in the presence of something so powerful is just, it's really hard to explain, but it's a really wild experience.
Now that you all know how they began storm tracking, let's dive into their powerful testimonies about the night of the Rolling Fork, Mississippi tornado occurring.
Man, I hope this town's gonna be all right. That velocity signature's scary. I don't know. Keep going. Gotta get to this other side. Maybe. That would be the best case scenario. But it's coming right up the town here. Keep going. What now? I got it on my iPad here. .754 is 2 minutes delayed. As soon as we get around this town, we're gonna stop, alright? We're gonna find a spot where we can use this. I will. What? Yes, sir.
The day of the Rolling Fork, Mississippi tornado, there was a big severe weather event that was setting up over Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas area. And the night before, my dad and I actually left Nebraska because we could see this event was setting up over the south down there. So we left the night before, stayed the night in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then the next day we finished the rest of the trip down to Louisiana, which is where we actually started tracking storms. And once we got to Louisiana, there was a tornado watch that was issued for parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas.
I was there when it happened. I am a storm chaser. I do it for a living. I do, storm tracking and forecasting, work in the weather world. And I was in Mississippi whenever it occurred. I drove through the town and got out of the way as the tornado approached town. And then me and my partner Frankie were one of the first people in the town after it happened. So up close and personal, unfortunately.
My chase partner and I, Zachary Hall, we had seen for several days that there's potential for violent storms in that region, and we had made plans to chase down there. We had chased a little bit out in Oklahoma the night before, and then we made way down to the Arklamas, so Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, that night to West Monroe. Woke up that morning, didn't feel great about the forecast, knew that something bad was going to happen. And as the day progressed, we crossed the Mississippi River, went up the highway to just north of Rolling Fork. There's a little highway there, 14, getting ready for that storm. As we saw, it was about to produce a tornado. And about 10 minutes before the tornado hit Rolling Fork, we got south of town, saw it, got away from it, and then we were in town 10 minutes after the storm hit and got out to help as many people as we could because we knew it was going to be bad.
Tallulah, Louisiana is where we started tracking the storm. And the team was my dad, John McKinney. He was driving the car with me. And then my friend Mike DeLang he was in a separate vehicle, but we ended up going together on this chase. And we started tracking the storm near Tallulah, Louisiana. And as that storm tracked northeast, we crossed over the Mississippi River, headed north of Vicksburg towards Rolling Fork. And between Tallulah, Louisiana and Rolling Fork, Mississippi, that storm went from not really looking that impressive, not really any rotation, to being a full-fledged monster as it came into the Rolling Fork area.
So the Rolling Fork tornado was really about as strong as they get before you reach EF5 status, which is the strongest tornadoes can get as far as the rating scale goes. It was a high-end EF4, violent, significant, long-track tornado. On this particular day, we knew that the atmospheric conditions were going to be conducive for thunderstorms. We knew that we were going to observe storms that could rotate. Therefore, the environment was, like I said earlier, conducive to rotating storms, thus tornadoes, large hail, that sort of thing.
So that day we had pretty much all the ingredients in place. Some of the storms early in the day kind of sputtered. There's something about 850 millibars called low-level jet, and a lot of the storms in Louisiana that day hadn't been able to tap into that yet. But once that storm crossed the river, right as nighttime hit, the low level jet kicked in, which really ramped up tornado genesis, and moisture was in place, instability was in place. All we needed was that low level jet to kick in, and when it did, it went berserk.
And on days like that day, sometimes you can get the right ingredients to where storms are well sustained. So when they produce tornadoes, they're on the ground for a long time. They're stronger tornadoes. They're not, brief. And on that particular night, that particular supercell produced the Rolling Fork tornado, and it was on the ground for quite a while. It didn't just hit Rolling Fork; it, damaged a large area of Mississippi.
My first initial thought when we got eyes on the tornado was, this is a big one. My heart sank. A lot of times you see a tornado out in the field, out in traditional tornado alley, and you're all excited because you know it's not going to impact people. But when you start getting into the Delta, east of the Mississippi, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of homes, and I just had this gut feeling that it was bad. As soon as we saw eyes on it, and then we started realizing it was going to impact Rolling Fork, we knew we had to get back as soon as possible.
The tornado was to the southwest of the town. And looking at the radar, I knew that this storm was likely about to or was already producing a tornado, probably a strong one. Excuse me. So when we drove through Rolling Fork, there was people just out and about doing their thing. There was no tornado sirens going off. There was people there's like a restaurant in town. I mean, it was like people had no idea. So we were honking the horn on the car, trying to get people to look at the car, hoping that they would put two and two together. And then as we drove south of town and got out of the city lights, and we could see out, this part of Mississippi is Delta country, so you can see a long ways, farm fields. And when we saw the lightning flash, we could see the tornado. It was huge. And then you could hear the winds really pick up, and it was like a sound that I'll never forget. It sounded like a train. And the tornado itself, it would briefly appear, and we knew that it was going to head toward Rolling Fork. I don't know if we expected it to go right through the middle of town, which it did, but fear comes to mind, anxiety, stress. We were also trying to keep ourselves safe and make sure it didn't turn and it hit us, because we would have been done had it done that. So, yeah, a lot of them, a wide range of emotions for sure prior to it hitting the town.
When I saw the tornado, it was the scariest tornado I've ever seen. I was thinking that, like, in my mind. I just never seen a tornado that just looked evil before, and that one looked evil. It was, it just in the nighttime, you could only see it in the lightning flashes. There'd be a flash, and then you don't see it for a second or two, and then another flash, and it moves a little closer, gets a little bit bigger, and just never seen a truly terrifying tornado like that. And another thing I remember was the realization that this tornado is heading for Rolling Fork. It didn't really set in until I had eyes on the tornado.
It's gonna go straight in this town. Slow down. Let's get a bearing here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Where
is it?
You can hear it. Hear it? Hear it? Hear the roar?
Slow down.
Power flash right there. Just saw a
Where
power
is
flash.
it? It's crossing right in front of us. Violent tornado.
It might be expanding, so.
And I could see the town, and I could see the tornado, and that's when I was realizing that this thing is really if it's not going to hit Rolling Fork, it's going to come really, really close. And that's when, everything turned from more of excitement, it turned to fear and just being terrified, because I knew that thing was going to do something really bad. So the tornado, it was just terrifying.
My vehicle was the one that we were using. I have a vehicle with tornado graphics and stuff all over it. And when we rolled into town after the tornado occurred, it was just us pretty much. So we immediately, myself and Frankie, and we had another individual with us named Zach Hardcastle. There was a building that, like a parking lot that we pulled into, and that building was destroyed. And we were trying to help people out of it, and they had injuries and cuts to their feet and their head. They were bleeding. It's still pouring down raining. So, we're trying to get people to my car to open the back hatch to keep them dry and dress their wounds. Frankie, I stayed with the vehicle quite a bit because I had a lot of very expensive things in my vehicle to keep that. And we also kind of used my car for like a mobile standby unit until we could get EMS services there, because there was no emergency services there at all. It was just us for a while. But Frankie, I know he did quite a bit of search and rescue and pulled some people out that were trapped, and saw a lot of bad things. It was a very rough scene. Those people were impacted in a big way. There was a trailer park in the town that did not fare very well to those winds, obviously. So super unfortunate event for sure.
When we came into town, there was chaos everywhere. There was destruction. There were, you know, dozens and dozens of homes just destroyed. And we got there. It was very confusing at first. We couldn't get a hold of 911 because the tornado actually took out the cell tower that was in town. So there was no way to communicate or get in contact with emergency like 911 or the emergency services. So it really felt like we were just out there all by ourselves and that there was no help coming. And in some ways that was kind of true too, because the word was very slow to get out because of that communication failure in town. So when we got there, we we tried to we tried to be careful and not to get out. You have potentially live power lines, you have gas leaks, you have just there's a bunch of just different things out there that can really hurt you if you step in the wrong spot.
As soon as we rolled back into town, we came up to there was this little gas station, I think, that was right near the Ace Hardware. And as I got out, I heard some screaming up the road, so I ran up to the Mexican restaurant there. And when I heard somebody yelling for help, I ran back to our vehicle and I said, "I just got in." They didn't ask me what they knew with me sprinting down the road to the tracker that something was up. So we got there, and for the next 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I remember it's weird. I remember it vividly, but at the same time, it was all a blur.
Once we got up to I think it was Walnut Street or something. I think yeah, Walnut Street. Once we got up to that area where the tornado actually passed through, that's when we saw some signs of some really bad damage, just from the headlights, because our headlights are facing straight forward. You can't really see a whole lot, and there's no power, so could see some mangled sheet metal. You could see there was a building that was badly damaged on the left, but I really didn't know the true scale of what happened um, until my dad turned the car and shined the lights over in the direction of this house that was partially destroyed. And that's when we kind of looked around and realized that this tornado went straight through town. We weren't on the outside of town. We were right in the middle of town. And I looked at Google Maps. I think I looked at Google Maps and looked at the satellite, and I realized that there were a bunch of houses right where we were at. And they're now just, piles of rubble, and there's really just nothing left. So that's when I really realized that, this tornado went straight through town, and this is basically just a war zone at this point, just complete devastation everywhere. And that's when I'd say there was a little bit of some panic that even set in, because really was not prepared mentally to see that or be in that situation. It really was just shocking, for me to be there.
I remember we got to the Mexican restaurant, and I think that's where Miss De Niro was. and we helped carry her out of the rubble over, I think it was a white sedan, and then we got her into the back of our vehicle. Tried to keep her dry. She was in shock, and then was able to get her into a vehicle to get her to a local hospital. And then from there, we just fanned out in all directions because I mean, it's pitch black, it's raining, and we just know that there's people needing help.
We tried to be careful with, like, not becoming a victim ourselves, by, you just don't want to make a bigger problem out there. But we carefully got out. We're looking around. My dad actually found, there was a house in front of us, and my dad ended up finding there was actually a woman in that house. And my dad saw this woman, this lady that was in this house, and this was after I already left the car. I was somewhere else, trying to help uh, dig this other lady that was trapped in a house. And my dad went over there and basically, and told her, like, hey, come here, come get in the car, like, let's just get out of the rain, let's get out of, in a house that's like partially destroyed, let's get out of the rain. She had a dog with her too, who was absolute trooper. Dog was just trooper, did not seem to be super phased by the tornado. um and then when I ended up coming back to the car, there was all of a sudden there was a lady in the car, and I was like, oh, who's this?
I remember, I, I may not remember his name exactly right because adrenaline's pumping, you're running around, but a gentleman, I think by the name of Lolly, he had oxygen in the back corner of the mobile park. Um, as I was walking up to the foundation of it. I saw a oxygen generator, and my dad, for the last 18 years of his life, dealt with lung issues. In the last 6 or 7, he was on oxygen with that almost the same exact oxygen generator. So when I found Mr. Lawley there in his car, I knew he needed oxygen, and I went back to the highway as fast as I could. And it's something that still haunts me a little bit, is that I couldn't find him oxygen. So I'm praying that as EMTs and people then dispersed out once they had a good response got to him, because I haven't seen him in the fatality report, but it still hurts me a little bit that I wasn't able to get back there to him the second time.
Another storm chaser who was there came up to the window and knocked on the window, and my dad rolled it down. And he said that there was another lady that was badly injured and needs to be taken to the hospital, and then asked if we had room in the vehicle. And of course, we were like, yeah, we got room. And I had a bunch of camera equipment and stuff in the back, so I just threw it over into the trunk, and then got out and tried to help bring this lady who was, her leg, something, it was really, it was badly injured. I don't know all that was wrong, but her leg was really messed up. And they brought her over, opened the door, set her in the car, and then I hopped back in the car. And then we just were trying to figure out where the hospital was, like where the nearest hospital is, because we're not from the area. We don't really know where the hospital is. Somebody told us to go to, I think, Yazoo City, and we were gonna go there first. But then when we came down to the road to go to Yazoo City, there was a giant power line, like one of those big ones with a bunch of lines on it, just toppled over, blocking that entire road. And we just didn't really see another way to get to Yazoo City. So we were like, well, Vicksburg's down here, they probably have a hospital. So we ended up just driving all the way down to Vicksburg with these two ladies in the car, and the dog. And yeah, we just took them down there, and we dropped them off at the emergency room. And they brought out, like, two wheelchairs, and then they set them on the wheelchairs, and they took them in. And then The only thing is that we actually still had the dog with us because they wouldn't take the dog in. So we ended up kind of babysitting the dog for maybe an hour or so until um, the police found somebody that could take the dog for the night while while she was in the hospital.
It wasn't something I kind of went into fight or flight mode. I was like, I need to help people. I can't worry about how I feel about this. I can't worry about how it affects me. I need to be the best possible me to help somebody. I leaned back on some things that my wife had taught me about emergency, like EMT stuff. She's a trained EMT, and just using how much knowledge I had to help people. Remember training of don't touch live power lines, don't touch power lines at all, don't step in the puddle with power lines. Watch where your footing is. Listen for sounds. It was awesome. I know awesome is not the best word for it, but I had my boots on that day. A lot of veteran storm chasers that morning when we all met up, when we looked at each other and we all had our boots on, we kind of knew that there was possibility for it, but just taking it one step at a time, trying to get to people as fast as we could, but seeing the damage and the level of that destruction. It's probably the worst tornado damage I've seen in person, and you just knew that it was a strong tornado.
Yeah, it was crazy. When we rolled into town, we briefly saw damage as we entered the city limits, but it wasn't that bad. But then as we got into the center of town where the tornado really went through, we started noticing vehicles flipped upside down. We saw the brick, and stone buildings that were completely dismantled. Power lines are down. When we parked, you open the doors and you could hear people yelling for help. It was like a movie scene. I tell people all the time, it was like an apocalyptic movie scene. It didn't even seem real. People are screaming for help. It's still raining, lightning, thunder. There's stuff everywhere. There's some buildings that weren't even recognizable. It just looked like a pile of rubble. That since then I have went back and looked at pictures, and you see that, when you take a second to look, these were just normal buildings that you see in small Mississippi towns. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, when we drove into town, we were scared, we were concerned, we were soaking wet. It was like delirious at times because you had a million people coming to you. I know I've got people over here that are trapped. I've got people over here, and people trying to call 911. There was no cell service. I think the best word to describe all of it is chaos.
All the people I was around that night, Highway 61, I looked it up. Highway 61 there that rolls through the center of town was kind of the melting pot of. I helped get many people to that highway because as emergency response started showing up 45 minutes to an hour later, that was where they were going to come into town was along 61. So that was like kind of our meeting spot. One of the other guys that was with me, we got separated, and I said, "Hey, just go to the highway and get back when it comes time." So that highway was the middle meeting ground for where we were.
So we did not use my vehicle for transport, but we had a few different people in the area that arrived that we knew, fellow storm chasers, that were able to put people in their cars and take them to the hospital. And I had a law enforcement officer that had came up to me and had asked me to put something out on social media that they needed as many emergency services vehicles as they could. So I got that out, and eventually I felt like we had that response we needed, and we were able to start, getting people transported. But for a while, at least 15 or 20 minutes, we had a couple different people in the back of my car just laying back, kind of going through it, in pain because they were injured and stuff. But yeah, we had some people that were able to get in and out of town, thankfully, and transport people. But no ambulances the first little bit. It was just us. So, a lot of search and rescue efforts. Frankie, my partner, did, he had a few individuals there that he was helping take people out of buildings and homes and trailer homes and digging people out of rubble. It was scary.
In person, that was the worst I've seen. As you know, Rolling Fork is a small rural town in Sharkey County, Mississippi. Low population, and it went right to the heart of town. I know, having friends who lived been around the Moore tornado or Joplin, that a significant tornado rolling through the heart of town is devastating, and it messes with your psyche for years to come. Just days after the rolling fork tornado, we were in Wynn for an EF3 in Arkansas, and I posted a picture of that tornado last night, and just hearing the stories of people that follow me of how they got to safety, but then it gives them anxiety for this next storm season. That when you experience something like that, it changes you. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but you're not the same after you experience that.
We haven't had an EF5 in America since 2013, a rated EF5. This is about as close as it gets. There was the tornado that happened in Mayfield, Kentucky a couple of years ago, but I wasn't there for that I think could maybe measure up to it. But for me personally, no, Rolling Fork was the worst I've ever seen. It was excuse me, the deadliest tornado I've ever seen. A lot of people lost their lives, unfortunately. The damage was the worst I've ever seen. And the chaos, like we talked about earlier, I've never seen anything like that. When you look at tornadoes on a scale from EF0 to EF5, the EF0 and EF1 tornadoes, those peel sheet metal off, maybe some shingles, tip a trash bin over. They do damage that you'll notice. But when you get to EF3, EF4, and EF5s, you're talking about leaving things unrecognizable. Like bombs went off. That's what it looked like.
I've never seen a town get hit like Rolling Fork, Mississippi. In all the years I've been out storm chasing with my dad, we've never come across a town that's gotten hit by a tornado. And Rolling Fork, Mississippi, they didn't just get hit by a tornado. It just tore straight through the middle of town, and it was devastating. So that was by far the worst damage I've ever seen as a storm chaser.
To be honest, you can't even process anything. You're numb, you're in disbelief, shock, and you really can't get your senses together, because it's like taking a crystal ball, one of those balls with that, and shaking it, and that's how it was. Everything is just everything. It's not there anymore. You don't know what part of town. To be a small town, you really didn't know what part you was at. So I was lost. I was disbelief. Sometimes you go out, you still in disbelief. It's like, is this a dream? Is it really happened? But it's reality.
So my nephew is Brad's nephew, Malone Phillips. He was 34 years old. He was our insurance agent with Indianola Insurance. He passed away of COVID at 34, and we had never changed our insurance. We had just left it in Indianola. And I looked at Brad and I said, I need Malone. I mean, just standing there looking at huge metal beams sitting on a slab, and all your pretty stuff is gone. And I reached out to his wife, which Lindsay and I are still, we're still communicating everything. And I just said, can you please send me Ed's number, which there's also an agent at Indianola.
And I didn't really understand what was going on. Tornadoes, I mean, you hear about them, but we've never had anything like this. So when my husband said he knew exactly what was on top of us, and I didn't, I said, Matt, what is going on? And in that moment, he did tell me right before I told him this is it. He said, there's a tornado right on top of us. And so in that moment, I was thinking, my parents, my neighbors, everybody knows everybody. So I was thinking, if we don't make it, is everybody else going to make it? It was devastating. And then my dogs were outside. I didn't even have time. I didn't even know to take cover. And so I was telling Matt, I've got to get to the dogs. And he was holding me back. He's like, we have to stay and wait it out. And so I was just kind of trying to process what was actually happening, but nothing prepared me to when I walked out of that under the stairs.
Like I said earlier, I had 2 friends and their 9-year-old daughter that we could not get in contact with. Everybody, I mean, some other people I was with, my kids were here. My other one was in Starkville, so I knew all of mine were fine. I had one with me, one there, 2 were here. The friends that I found that we did not know where they were, we didn't know if they were at home and it hit her house. We knew they were together, but we did not know where they were for at least 45 minutes. They're in the Mexican restaurant. They're thinking, in their mind, they're thinking that a tornado came through and it just hit the Mexican restaurant.
A lot of it was thinking what to do, you're just trying to make as many decisions of survival. And it's just, you can't, I don't know if any of us can realize how fast we were trying to process what to do in our mind, but it was really fast. Living in Houston, we were part of 3 pretty major hurricanes. And the first 2 we left because we had, our daughter was so young at that point in time. And it was taking us 8.5 hours to get to a 2-hour destination normally. And that was a stressor and a toll. And then it was, when could we get back to our house? We couldn't just come right back. And so the third hurricane was not on track to be very close to us. So we decided to stay, and we discussed it with our other neighbors. They also decided to stay.
Well, all what crossed my mind is pray.
That's all we could do.
That's all I could do. I said, well, Lord, you coming through here, you going to take care of us.
Mm-hmm. That's the only thing you could do is pray.
And where you going, Lord going to take care of you.
And then after the tornado was over, you gonna study, keep praying.
Sure.
Because of you hear, as a close-knit community, you're gonna hear somebody die, this person died, that person died. Lord, you go with her, and you just gonna have to just keep on praying. And just like we study got to keep praying each and every day, every minute, every second, every hour of the day. Because it gonna take years to build this community back. This ain't no hard say in 6 months, this community, it gonna take years for this community to be built back.
It ain't gonna be straight to about December and July. It started coming back. It's coming back now, but it take time for everything.
Right.
But the people around here, I watch folks, but they done got more closer than they ever been.
More closer. People that didn't like you, they speaking to you.
They love you.
They'll give you a ride now. They ask you all right now. When they'll pass by you, act like they ain't seen.
So like nobody knew. So for 45 minutes, they're screaming and like, why is nobody coming for us? Like they couldn't understand why nobody was there, but they didn't realize how bad it was until they got out. So, I mean, I wasn't really even, like I said, I didn't think about my store.
She called me and answered. She said, you got to get to the Mexican restaurant. You've got to check on.
You've got to get,
get them out.
When we found out where they were.
And I had already passed Mexican, and I said, Amanda,
there is no Mexican.
And that's when it hit us.
So that was my panic. My first fear was that they were in it and they weren't there, or they had been thrown, or, just not knowing. And that's, like I said, that's why I never thought about our store. It never crossed my mind until I found out. Yeah.
It never.
I just didn't think about it. But I think where our store was just part of the worst part.
So we knew that we had neighbors that were staying, and it so happened that it turned and came right up 45, which is roughly 20 miles from us, and it was Harvey, which was a Category 4. And we had 6 to 8 hours of wind just beating on the house but you couldn't see because we had it all boarded up. But I do say this, that after going through this tornado, I feel like the tornado would have eaten Harvey up. That's how powerful it was. It was, I said I could have just been a blade of Bermuda grass. I mean, you're very insignificant and just amazing.
I've always told Joseph when we stayed for Harvey, we were downstairs and, you know, you go through 3 hours of wind and the noise, and then you go through the eye of it and it stops, and then it comes again, and it is horrible because you can't look out. But when it was over, I told Joseph, I said, we're not doing this again, because it sounded like a really mean monster wanting to get in your house, banging on your house, wanting to get in. I mean, the noise. And this tornado sounded like that to me. It didn't sound like a train. It sounded like a big old monster, if you can imagine one, just knocking on your house every which way, wanting to get in.
I didn't know what to do because, like I said, I knew if I could, I would have just immediately picked up the phone and called Malone, and he would have probably come that night. A lot of people came for us that night. My sister and brother-in-law live in Hollandale. They came, and my sister Gwendolyn said, what can I do? Well, of course, our phones were just ringing off the hook, and we had text messages, people trying to check on us. And I handed her my phone and I said, you can answer these people. I mean, you're just standing there like everything you've worked so hard for is gone.
This a lady walked up to me. I thought she was the meanest woman in the world, but she wasn't. She walked up to me and threw her arms like, give me a hug, young man. I said, do Jesus. I said, how you doing? Don't tell me what the Lord can't do for you.
Yeah. Make them change their ways, ain't it, Pop? Make them change their ways.
Yeah, I've seen a lot.
That what makes you smile. When you know, as you're growing up on a plantation, the Mississippi Delta, you hear your grandmama, your granddaddy used to say they know you by the color of the house you stay in. And you see that it, you had this red house, you had blue, you had yellow, you had white. Some of them people that own them plantations dead and gone. But you know what? Them same houses that you was trying to make us do this and do that, nah, you got blacks staying in them same houses.
And some of the black, what it was staying, they own that land.
Own that land. For them plantations.
Yeah, you know, it's a whole lot go through life. But life must go on.
Got to. It got to.
Yeah.
So financially, my husband and I, like I said, we're 22, and so we started working maybe 2 years ago, and so my husband's good at saving. I'm not the best, so we had a little bit of money, I would say, but we just bought my car, and we didn't want to make payments on it, so we had actually paid a lot on it, and so right. If it would have happened a month before, we would have had a little bit more cushion, but we had, tried not to be in debt. The only thing we had was our house loan. We had paid everything else off, and so I would say right now, we are struggling to find the funds to rebuild or relocate. I mean, everything is so expensive, and we're 22. We don't have that much money, and we both work full time, and we're trying our hardest, but like with insurance, after they give me the insurance check, I have to pay off the bank loan, and that leaves me with like $20,000, and I can't build anything for that. I can't buy anything for that, and so everybody just keeps saying it's gonna be okay, and I'm like, unless I get funds, I'm not gonna, I won't have my own house or anything, and it's not the same. We're completely blessed to be in the house we're in right now. It has a roof, and that goes a long way these days. I never thought I would say that, but we're blessed with that. But it's just not the same to owning your own home and doing whatever you can in your own home. So financially, I would say we're struggling.
Financially, we're going to be okay. Emotionally, I don't know. It comes and goes. Like some days she's got good days, some days I have bad days. We just kind of have to, we kind of bring each other back down to earth a little bit. But when you think of a gift store, people think, oh, people don't need candles and they don't need this. But when you're the only pretty much gift store or a florist, because that's a lot of our business within a 45-mile radius, north and south, people need us. They want us.
A lot of funerals.
We do a lot of funerals.
A lot of flowers.
We
All
have
the holidays are huge. Valentine's, Mother's
It's
Day.
huge. We have brides that get married here. We still have weddings here, and people don't want to drive to Jackson. I mean, we get text messages that say, hey, I want to spend X amount of dollars. Can you just pick me out a gift? And it's done. They don't have to even call us. They can just send text messages. It's just, we want to make it easier for them. But as far as financially, I mean, once we get up and running, I think we're going to see so much support from everybody because they want us here. And we want all the other businesses here as well.
You got to understand that I bought my building in 2008. So when I bought my building, it was in such bad shape. I mean, you had trees growing up in it. I worked in this building till I finished high school. I left. I didn't enter that building again for 20 years. When I entered that building, I bought the building pretty much sight unseen. And when I bought the building, when I told my mom, it's a funny story, and I told my mom, I said, Mom, do you ever see this lady that owned that building? Tell her I want to buy it. So one day she called me. She said, Curtis, this lady's there. So I called her, and I asked her, did she want to sell the building? She was like, yeah. So I kind of bought it sight unseen. So when I went into that building, I mean, you had trees growing up, vines all over it. It took my brother and I 2 years to gut that building out. And so by me having a moving company in Florida for 10 years, right about 10 years, I'll come back and forth, bringing furniture, fixing on the building, doing it all out my pocket. I know out my pocket, I spent about $250,000. But that's what I wanted to bring back home because they're not going to finance us. They're not going to give take a chance on a person like me. An old structure. I try to get insurance on the building. They wouldn't insure me because it's an old building. They think I'm gonna burn it down. They ain't gonna believe. Nobody ever come back home to do anything, so they're not gonna believe. So that the bank, when I bought the structure and I went to the bank, they just pretty much laughed in my face. So I was making good money, so I figured I'll take my chance. I'll bet on me. So that's what I did. So it took me 10 years to bring this building up to code where I can open it and, be function business. But doing all that process, you're doing that, there's nobody financing, I'm back and forth from Florida. I drove from Florida. People might think I'm crazy. I drove from Florida to Mississippi twice a month, because when I, like I tell you, Sarasota County is a rich county. People will buy a whole house of furniture and just give it to me.
Really, it did and it didn't. You know what I mean? Because, for financial, we is already poor people. And God ain't gonna give you no more than you're supposed to have.
I ain't gonna give you no more than you can put on.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, my financial situation, you deal with FEMA, MEMA, Red Cross, SBA, USDA, and all of those people. Me, staying right here in Rolling Fork, Mississippi, I tell what I always was taught is the truth. When I tell them I only get food stamps, they look at me like they couldn't believe it. They say, you don't get no kind of financial. I said, disabled. I'm not getting no disability. I only get EBT food stamps. And they'll ask me, how is you living? I said, with the man above.
Sure. Lord ain't gonna put more on
He
you
ain't
than
gonna
bear.
put no more on you than you can handle. And people all the time will see you walking. And my mama and my dad always said, if you never pull out your pocket, they'll never know you're broke. So that's how I go with it. If you never pull your pockets out, they'll never know you're broke.
You know, like I told another girl that she was fussing, and we was cleaning the church up. She said, I got money. I said, baby, I got a couple of pennies in my pocket. I say, if you got dollars, I got change.
We've had tremendous amount of financial help as far as the things that we need right now. Living in all of us in this little area, we're in a camping survival mode. Well, you don't need very much when you're camping.
No.
You need very little clothes, very little food, you know. But as we transition into more living, I say that's when we're going to find out the needs that we really need when we start living. And it's hard to just ask for money. But if somebody says, what do you need? Really and truly, you just need money, because with money, when you do need something, you have the ability to go and get it. And I know it doesn't sound, I'm not too proud to say that most important would just be money, because it allows you to go and get the things. And an example would be the fact that, I know it's insignificant, but when you're sitting here in silence and you don't have a book to read or anything like that, we listen to some music, but every now and then we just would like to cut the TV on just to hear the local news or something, just to break the silence.
I hope and pray that we are fine. Like I said, my nephew had us insured very well. You know, our insurance agent and our insurance adjuster says that we should have no issue. Like I said, we have seen some insurance money, but we have not seen it all. You know, I hope and pray that everything's fine, you know, that God works everything out and that we should be fine. I feel sorry for the ones that did have insurance, but only going to pay off their building and they want to rebuild. You know, my heart goes out to people like that. And that's who I want to help. And that's who need the help.
I was covered. I had insurance, so we're fine on that end. I'm with Shelter Insurance out of Vicksburg. Lady named Helen Burke, and let me lift Helen up. Helen was on the phone 10 minutes after the storm, wanting to know how we were. She wasn't asking about the house. She was wanting to know how we were, because she had watched it on the news. The business, I had insurance on the business too, and I guess I'd tell you we're 85% back together here. It will come back together. I've got a lot of rental property here in Rolling Fork, and I guess more than anything, it's bothered me. So many of, I say my people, when I say my people, I refer to the people that live in the houses. They have nowhere to go. So I've tried just as quick as we can to get on that, to rectify that situation, and nothing has been quick with this.
So I would bring that furniture home, and I brought everything home, and then sometimes I give it to people, and I fix my place. I had little yard sales, and but I mainly was, some of the most expensive furniture you can ever find. People just throwing it away, just giving it to me. And so that's what I was doing. I did that, and back and forth for 10 years. Had my friends come down, they'll stucco the building. I open one section at a time. So by the time I got the building up to code, I would go and I remember going down to the insurance company and try to get insurance on it. And they told me some wild number, like 800 a month just to insure my building. They were really just trying to discourage me to open, because I'm one of maybe three black men that own property on Highway 61 within 100 miles, and they still trying to figure out, how did he get this property? I had to go back door, to get the property. See, we started buying property to come home, and when we did that, they started buying up property, close to the gate. So financially, you're looking at about 300,000 just wiped off the map. It's a stagnant number, but I'm okay with it. I got life, and I still got my business, so I'm able to, I can regroup, but I'm the reason it's easy for me to say, for me to regroup, because I ain't doing it for me. I'm doing it for the person coming back behind me. So they're gonna enjoy it way more than I. But that's it devastated me. But I got life, I got my health, so I'm good.
My husband and I still 2 weeks later say, as bad as this was, God knew not to take out the hospital, both of our schools, our grocery store, and our bank. Because I think if any 3 out of those 5 had been hit hard, I think people would have left. I think people would have packed up and gone. Because even though we're farming community, that you still have to have those people. I mean, you still have to have them. But financially, I think we're going to be okay.
She's older than a little.
Yeah,
older
I
than
am older than her. And so she's kind of got
So
more of
I'm
the...
in more of a panic about financially, but my husband and I have been building a house for the last year, and we're almost finished. So we have double, almost triple the bills now. And I've gone from having a full-time job to having no job at all overnight. And yes, it's a big...
But it's going to be okay.
Yes, I'm going to figure it out.
She can just move in here with us. It's just more the merrier.
And I was looking at getting a digital antenna, $35. But before the storm, I wasn't looking to get a digital antenna. Like I said, little, insignificant, but from a financial standpoint, I don't know what that impact's going to be, maybe for several months down the road. Our only vehicle was totaled. Maybe in book value, it's not worth very much, but it's worth as much as a $80,000 truck to me, because it gets me from A to B, work to home, wherever we need to go. So how do you put a value on a vehicle that you trust in?
So many people are in the same boat. We're still working on the houses. I think I had 4 that were totally destroyed, which you won't come back from. The rest of them, I'm putting them back together, and as far as I know, about everybody wants to move back in just as quick as we can get them to that point. I think the long-term effects are going to work on a bunch of people. I have no idea how the tax base of the town is going to work with this many houses and property gone. You decimated the tax base in 30 seconds time. I feel like most of the people here on the highway with businesses are coming back. I know all of them personally, and every one of them have told me they are, and I feel like they will. But I think we got a good road ahead of us. I think it's going to take a lot of planning and still take a lot of people chipping in and doing this and that, but I do think we'll come back.
So you can't do nothing with that. I said, the Lord gonna bless me with what you got, and what I got is It's a blessing. You can't, some of us black folk, they got something. They don't know how to act. And the next morning, the Lord want it, he'll take it. He have it right there, and you can't spend it.
Snatch it right from under you.
He have it so you can't spend it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that happen, a lot of people. But whatever I got, I thank God for it, and I ain't try to act bigoted with nothing else.
You
changes, money changes people, black, white, and yellow, green, and orange. But money don't change me.
Mm-hmm. See, one thing about it, growing up in the Mississippi Delta is that you ain't got to have all this here. When you got Jesus and serving the Lord, and I tell a lot of people, I ain't got to have the fancy house, the fancy car. As long as I got Jesus, I'm fine. So I don't look in people every day. They see me going, but they always gonna wonder how I make it. I got a man that's powerful than I am, man.
Sure will.
And it's the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me smiling. Because whatever for me is for me.
For you. You can't nobody take it from you.
Nobody can take it away. So that's the reason I don't even sit there and worry about what I don't have.
Rolling Fork's always been a tight-knit community. When there's a need, there's somebody there.
You can't move on, but God got things for you to do around here. And thing of it, the Lord said high and look low, because he ain't gonna put no more on you than you put on nobody else around in the state of Mississippi.
The tornado for me, it wiped out all my childhood memories. You got to look at from the first job that I had to the place that I stayed, to the people that mold me into the person that I am. There's nothing left to even remind you of, some things that you went through. There's no structures there to remind you, that's all wiped out. Everything's to the foundation, so.
We are in the process of putting our house back together. That's a first priority. But within that process, we are trying to also figure out where we might live and how we might live temporarily. Don't know if it's 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. Don't really know. So we're trying to prepare ourselves to get back to living. We both have jobs that we need to and want to go back to. We are, and we have to find a way to live around what the construction both here at our house and everything that's going around within the community.
Well, first of all, we're very, very thankful that we were not at work, because the metal beams were on the slab. I mean, it was, we probably wouldn't have survived if it had been during working hours. We were at home, and like I said, we live 12 miles outside of Rolling Fork, so the tornado actually went south of us. So our home was not damaged. And thankfully we do have insurance, so who have been very good with working with us. I just feel like Rolling Fork, like I said before, is a strong community. Everybody basically gets along with everybody. We're very involved about shopping local. I tell people all the time, I don't have a reason to go to Greenville or Vicksburg or Jackson to shop, because I can just go right here in our community.
The support has been overwhelming. You can't imagine the people that I've come in contact with that have come through, helping Virginia, Oklahoma, Texas, just all over, and they dropped everything to come down here and help.
You know what? It's hurting. It hurts us to see all this here. Just like with me. I had surgery March the 9th. March the 24th, when that tornado hit, with stitches in my backs and staples, pain and everything. But just imagine if I would have ran to somebody else's house. The Lord kept me here. And that's the reason you meet people. That, you know, the Lord kept Pop here. Because this man right here, I listened to him. He's just like my dad. This man right here, I could have been anywhere, but I know when you got a man like this, it'll tell you. And then when you got a personal relationship with God, I could have been running and the tornado could have picked me up. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you got to have a listening ear. That morning when the tornado, I never will forget it, bright as daylight. I got up, I brushed my teeth, washed my face, took a shower. I didn't want nothing to eat. I had my Bible in my hand. All that day, I had God's word in my hand.
For the most part, people are rebuilding, and you know, a few are leaving, which I hate. But everybody's wanting to rebuild, or you know. But I think people forget that I'm only 22. So whereas people have had savings for 50 years, my husband and I just got married in June. We just bought that first house, and 10 months. We made it in there 10 months, where we wanted to make it in there 10 years, you know. So we don't really know where we stand with that. We want to rebuild. We just hope that the funds are there.
So it's a lot to take in as far as staying out of the way of a lot of people who are here to help. But then again, we've also got to move around in our community to go to work, to get food, supplies, and for ourselves. So it's it's something that we are just continuing to find our way. But our plans are to house to get rebuilt and get back in and help anyone else we can.
From groceries to gifts to tires to paint to anything. I mean, Rolling Fork just had a great small place. I mean, it was just, and that's what I hope we get back to. And I mean, as far as I know, every single business is building back, and I'm just so thankful for that, because I want it to be bigger and better. I want these people that lost their homes to come back, like Tanya and Matt. I want them to come back and build back. A lot of people that I've talked to, whites and blacks, have said they are coming back. You know, this is their home, and that's what they said. You know, our friends are here, our church is here, our school's here. You know, we want to come back.
We're just moving forward. That's all you can do. Everything that's happened the last 2 weeks is done. You can't change it. You can't go back. Doing what we're doing, which is trying to get where we live is hard finding people to come in and build.
Construction crews.
There are people coming in, but there are going to be some people that are, I mean, people are getting scammed already. And so you want to make sure you're, you know, doing the right thing, but we hope that we've got somebody that is helping us draw plans and helping us move forward. And the same with every other business. I mean, we reached out and said, you know, are y'all rebuilding? Are y'all rebuilding? And everybody wants everybody to rebuild. Everybody, it's scary not knowing, because I think a lot of people would leave here. It opens the door for them to leave. If they're retired and their house is gone and they have grandkids that live in other states, all they got to do is pick up and move. I mean, they're done. But I mean, you can't dwell on what happened. I mean, it's like everybody says, pull up your bootstraps and let's just go. You just got to get it done.
I'm moving day by day. I was an emotional wreck, and this one
yeah
pulled me back too. And she said, you know, we have to move forward. We have to rebuild. and we didn't have enough insurance to cover rebuilding. We did have some insurance. So right now we're searching for funds. We're starting a fundraiser.
You know, I think God has pulled everybody together on this. I think I don't know the word I'm looking for. He's set into motion an overall community standing behind it. People are even still to this day right up here cooking dinners, giving them away to help. But everything is upside down is the easy way to put it.
And then my nephew, he told me, he said, Auntie, he said, I ain't never saw you sit outside like you sat outside today. I said, you know what? The Lord speaking to me. I said, I'm out here for a reason. All that time when the Lord was speaking to me, I was just like, Lord, I understand. But my relationship with him. And then when I did go in the house, I was sitting in the recliner and my mother called and she told me, she said, baby, she said, it's going to be some bad weather. I'm going to get off the phone, but I just wanted to tell you it's going to be some bad weather, so you better take cover. Like she did when she back then, 41 years ago, she picked me up and put me in her arms. But God picked me up and put me where he know I need to be.
He know where you want to be.
So that, you know, it's a blessing to be here. You know where I'm going to go or what I don't know, but I'm leaning and depending on him.
That's the best thing.
That's the thing I'm doing right now. And I come right here, visit Pop, talk to Pop, because I know what he going to tell me what's right.
If I don't see her and her husband in a couple of days, I'm gonna come find him.
He gonna come find me. So that you talking about he been in longer than me. He know.
And when we do get the funds, finding a crew to rebuild, and we've already have friends come in and say they want to help us draw the plans, and
because now's the time to get what we want to. What our store to look like. I don't know if she told y'all the backstory. So her mom used to own the store. 6 years ago, a lightning struck the back building, the transformer, which was nothing but old wood. And she had a huge shoe room. Well, once that fire hit that shoe room,
all the rubber,
it was done. So it was 2 buildings connected by a hallway. We were in the building that they saved. And it was just smoke damage. So we've done this, and we can do it again. Yeah.
I was pregnant with my second child when we started rebuilding 6 years ago. Now I have 3. So it's been a long journey.
Yeah. So, but we've done it once. We'll do it again. It's just maybe this time it may take a little longer.
Patience. I'm learning patience.
Yeah.
So, you know, last time we spoke, I was in a house that my bosses owned, and that was great. You know, that was a blessing, and but I just didn't feel right. You know, I wasn't in Rolling Fork. I was about 15 minutes south, and I just didn't feel normal. And so my parents actually bought a house, and the house that I grew up in, which is where we are, they offered it to my husband and I to say, you know, do y'all want to stay there until y'all can rebuild, you know? And so I was like, yes, so, you know, that'd be great. So that same weekend, my daddy came with a trailer and we loaded up all we could and brought it here and just kind of been moving in here. And so I'm a lot more comfortable here. I'm familiar with it. I'm a minute down the road from work again. It's just been a blessing to be back in Rolling Fork. I mean, it's my hometown. It's all I know. So it's been a blessing to be back in Rolling Fork, and then also in the house that I grew up in. Our church is right across the street, so I just walk across the street to church, and it's just been a blessing to with familiar grounds again.
He actually has a couple of pictures. We started the first week of June, maybe the second week of June. They laid new concrete.
And then went to framing.
They
So that's the
framing inside.
This week they did the HVAC, so we're moving along quickly. And the shingles are on the roof too.
Yeah,
now,
we have a
so-
roof.
And this week we also started
A little small, tiny
a small
home.
business.
Our tiny
A
home.
smaller business.
Yeah. But it's been, so we've been in there 2 weeks?
No, 1 week. This
Oh,
week is
1
our
week.
first week.
Yeah, 1 week. Okay. Yeah.
So we're moving forward.
Yeah. We're excited.
So this is the new building. I was just talking to the air conditioner guy, and we're supposed to have some air hopefully this week. We've done things a little different. When we bought the store from Brad's dad in 2011, it was his design. So we've come in and we're able to put our style on the store. The building's been up for a couple of months, and we've kind of contracted the inside out ourselves. So we've had carpenters, we have electrician, we have the air conditioners. Anyway, we've got to, all this shiplap and the wall will all be stained. That's something Brad and I will do. And when everybody gets out, of course, the last thing is the floor's got to be completely cleaned and repainted, and there we're going to put a wood floor down the center aisle. So we still have a good bit of work to do. We're just saying if we can get in, hopefully in November, we will be doing good. So we've got to completely restock the whole showroom. The furniture you see in here is sold to customers. We've never stopped working. We've done deliveries since probably 2 or 3 weeks after the tornado hit. We've continued to do deliveries. We've got some more to do next week. People in Rolling Fork are actually getting back in their homes, and so we've done deliveries here and we've gone out of town. People just seem to call us, and that's been a good thing. Well, as you can see, we're still a work in progress. We have, carpenters, electricians, air conditioning. I mean, so people are here every day working. We're hoping to open up mid-November. So, but once everybody gets out of here, Brad and I have to clean the floors and put flooring down the middle. So we have some staining to do, but it will go as it goes.
Our house plans that we picked out actually do not fit on the lot that we had. We're under a covenant that you have to build with 10 feet on either side of your neighbors. And since we had a 2-story house, it's kind of stacked. So now I don't want a 2-story house. And so it's just not wide enough. And so we're actually going to sell that lot to our neighbor. And we are buying a different lot from, we go to church together, and this couple, and we've always been just close friends as well. And so we're buying their lot, and the house plans fit on there. They sit on a double lot, so we won't have any problems with room. So we are finishing up closing hopefully this week, and then we could start on the building process.
I think everybody's still kind of in, wouldn't say shock. It's just now it's like you moved from shock to,
How do we move forward?
yeah, how do you move?
It's a lot less emotional now.
Yeah, how do you start rebuilding? How do you start finding funds to rebuild? We know of 3 families that have left, sold lots. People are moving lots, moving houses.
Several people are rebuilding, so there's a lot of houses already up now. just like ours.
Behind Green Apple, there's 3 foundations going down. So that's really, really good.
It's just taking time.
Yep.
Okay,
Well-
tomorrow morning we leave for market. We're excited.
Yeah, go ahead.
We get to leave very early in the morning, and we're going to Atlanta, Georgia, to the market we go to every 6 months. But this time we're buying everything. So we'll be there for a full week. We have to buy displays, gifts, everything.
Bags, bows, ribbons, everything. But it's exciting. We enjoy it. About the 4th day, we're pretty tired.
It's a lot of walking.
It's 3 buildings, 18 floors high, each building. We don't go to every building, but this time we probably will because we'll be looking for displays and things like that. So, but we enjoy it. It's fun. It's fun to see new stuff.
The people that were like personally affected by the tornado, it's kind of the same as my story, you know, a little bit of progress. Just others are doing great and their buildings are up and, you know, they're just waiting on it to all be finished. And so there's some, you know, just still in the waiting, you know, and then there's others that are backing at it and just waiting to reopen or move back into their homes. And yeah.
Well, we've come a long way. I mean, I guess the people that like come every single day might not see because they might be still looking at the same debris. But I just feel like when we come to town, I try not to look at maybe they haven't picked some debris up or, you know, there's still some smushed cars sitting somewhere or a building's not been torn down yet. I try to look at all the progress that's been going on in Rolling Fork. If you leave our store and go down 61, I mean, you can see all the houses that have come up. I mean, it's just, and they're beautiful, nice homes. They're so much better than what people had. And nobody wanted the tornado, but I feel like Rolling Fork is going to be so much prettier. It might take us a couple of years, but I mean, just, you know, people are getting to do what they want to do. They're getting to design their store or their building or their home to what they had envisioned it. And, you know, a lot of people that were able to do that.
I think it's going to take time to feel normal.
I think we're learning to adjust to everything. So everything that was normal isn't anymore. So everybody's more calm. They're not worried or stressed about little things anymore.
Yeah.
And as far as flowers, we still have our tiny building, but we're still doing our flowers out of a farmhouse. So, I mean, it's a lot harder, but it doesn't affect us as much as it would have before.
I think we're all just finding the new normal. There's a different normal. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Everybody's just still being helpful and trying to do what they can. Everybody's still supporting everybody. There's still several businesses going up, still several businesses waiting to be rebuilt. But it's just going to be a slow, steady process.
Well, my oldest daughter, she lived in Hollandale when this happened. And my youngest daughter is in school in Cleveland, and that's where she was when this took place in March. It's been a definite adjustment on them. I think I would probably tell you more than anything, their childhood home was just wiped out, and so was most of the belongings that were in it. And you know, you just don't get that back. I don't care if you rebuild or where you move. When all that's taken away in just one swipe of basically 15 seconds, that's a lot of adjustment, and especially at their age. One of them just turned 20, and the other one is fixing to turn 23. But they're adjusting to it. But no, it wasn't anything that just happened. It was, I would call it a life-altering experience for everybody, even them, even though they weren't in the house with us when it took place.
It's been a wild run. First, it's like the emotions hit you, and then after moving past the emotions, you have to start building. We started building not long after the tornado, so we have been working hard every day since. So we're finally back in our building. I mean, we've gone from building to working in a little shed back to being in our original building. So now we're fully back open. So flowers and all, we are fully functioning now. So it's been a long road, but we're here.
During all this, I lost 3 of them that we had to knock down. Or they were knocked down, but we had to clean them up. I had got all of them restored, but 2
And part of that is my fault. It has just been a process trying to get them there. And I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks to have those two finished. There's still a lot of people that don't have housing locally that are looking for it. And a couple of my people that got put out because of the storm are still wanting to come back. So that's coming together, but it's still just a little ways to go on it. I had the man that runs JW Chain Contractors. He was Johnny on the spot. Let me tell you, he worked wonders for helping me get sealed off, and then that allowed me time to get the other people in to repair it. So I made the repairs to my building, yes.
Well, we're in a brand new building. We are filling it with full of furniture right now. We got Wi-Fi about 2 weeks ago, so everything is coming back together. We still have pieces, that we need to get, so we're just kind of taking one step at a time, getting everything back in there in place.
I'm pregnant with my first baby, and she is due July 12th. So we are still in the same house that my parents were in, but I'm comfortable there, and we're still looking in the surrounding area, something with a better school district. But I would say emotionally, things have gotten a lot better. I'm in a better place emotionally. Me and my husband are. So things are just, you're happy again about little things when it first happened, you weren't happy about anything. So emotionally, we're in a much better place. Physically, still in my parents' house, but we're okay with that for the moment.
I'm finally getting the emotions behind me. I mean, it took almost 6 months to fully think clearly after everything. So after the 6 months, you can slowly start to your brain starts coming back to. I know that sounds weird, but it is a lot to take in. So I feel like the emotions are kind of getting past me, and I'm just moving forward. But I love seeing all the buildings come up, all the businesses. We're still waiting for buildings downtown, but it is a lot of positivity going on. So moving forward.
My wife, Evelyn, her name's Evelyn Macon. She's having a really tough time getting back to the place she was once before the tornado hit due to the anxiety. She have a lot of anxiety, and my dog has, my dog transitioned. He was an older dog that I inherited from my parents, and I just think after the storm, he just took a turn for the worse, and it just seemed like he couldn't recover from the storm. Then it's the only place he knew, and everything was destroyed. It just seemed like the dog even gave up. Truthfully,
personally, we moved in a house in November, so we're trying to get settled in that. So we did find a house. Couple we go to church with, we ended up buying their mother's house. So that's worked good. On the highway, several of the businesses have opened back up, which is a plus. The dairy bar has still not made it back. It's built, but she's trying to get all the kinks worked out, I think. A lot of cleanup has took place. There's still a little bit to go. But it's just a very slow process, which I think we knew it was going to be. I think everybody was really anticipating that it would happen quick, but knowing and considering the damage that took place, it's coming along, but certain areas are way slower than others.
Delta View was a convenience store, Airbnb, and a little small restaurant. It was in operation since 2018, and everything was going well up until the storm. And it just seemed like certain businesses was recognized, but other business wasn't even considered, anything, because I see business around here getting little bonuses, or little they'll give them a check or something to help out. But for me, I haven't received any recognition that even my business would even exist. The people who need it is not getting it, and the people who doesn't need it and had insurance, they all you gotta do is look around and see who's building back first, and that'll tell the story. You know, you don't even have all the white business is up and just about running, and as far as black business, as far as for me and the other black business that's on this highway, don't even look like we even got a starting gate as far as getting help.
I would say the improvement we've seen is strictly because of business owners or homeowners, not because the city is helping, which is a big problem. I believe we should be a lot further than we actually are. But there's business owners like Tracy Harden, Lacey Hankins, Jennifer Britton, all those small business owners that, you know, got back on their feet and did stuff themselves to get back on their feet. I wish there was more help, like I said, through the city, but not much. But business owners and homeowners are doing it themselves, and it's great, and it's coming back, but just a lot slower than I imagined.
As far as receiving help from any organization, I really hadn't received any help from an organization. The help I received is from me doing my own footwork and reaching out to different people to put my business back together. That's always been on my own. I got a company helping me trying to get my gas pumps in, you know, but that's totally different, and all that is on me. But my structure that was damaged and all the equipment and everything I lost, I haven't got any support for that. Not 1 cent. Check my GoFundMe. There's nothing in there. I mean, anything. I haven't received one. Everything's been totally on me. My business was not able to get back up and running. It even took me a year just to get. It took me a year just to even get my land survey done, and I've had like 3 or 4 people to do it. I've had people charge me for the survey and didn't even come back to finish. You know, so it's being a little small town and going through something like this, it feels like a lot of people just being taken advantage of.
I can say in the Rolling Fork community, you know, you see different stuff. Now, people are doing stuff, just like they did stuff for the children. You know, at Jason May, I'm thankful for her. She gave us a turkey for Christmas and stuff. And just living here, you know, still with you and lost everything. And, you know, I got a mattress that I'm sleeping in with, you know, it ain't very comfortable with that surgery I had on my back and the stuff that I got in my back. It helping, you know, my people that get me up and down or go to the store for me. So my life is not where I wanted to be before the tornado, because, you know, I had a nice roof over my head. I had my own bed that I was comfortable in and all like that there. And when you ain't got the financial to really do all these things, it's just like you're still living that March 24th tornado and trying to move forward, but not be so depressed about it. So it just takes a step at a time. And it reminds me of the movie of Color Purple when Fantasia first came on Color Purple, when she said the stuff that she was going through as when she was young. And she had to fight, and go through a lot of changes. But it reminds you, but you never give up, because you know your blessings on the way. So that you had it all, but you lost it because of the March tornado. But I'm just keeping my peace of mind and with the strength of the Lord that know that I'm going to get it back. But it is nerve-wracking, it's depressing, you know, because you don't know what direction it's turning in to get here.
What I've seen is due to the lack of leadership, they can't really move forward with anything, because it just seems like everybody's pointing finger at one another, and money's going missing, and you know, this everything is, since the cleanup is pretty much at a standstill. I mean, nothing is really being done. You have all these meetings, and
what they gonna do. But a year later, there's nothing really to be. I can't see anything that they're really doing to move forward, other than the few people who's getting houses and stuff done. As far as the city and their workers, it's sad, really.
It's an absolute disaster. I mean, the mayor and the board of aldermen cannot get anything together. They still don't have a grant manager. They don't have a what's it called? A city planner, like a planner to come in to help with the city, the rebuilding of the city. There's still debris, and mostly in the downtown areas. It's a lot of debris. That big water tower is still down. There's still buildings that need to be removed. Back in the neighborhood, there's just piles of debris that has not been picked up. There's basically no stop signs, no street signs. I mean, it really, Highway 61 looks pretty good. A lot of the businesses either have built back or are in the process of building back. So Highway 61 is not really that bad at all. But the downtown and back in the neighborhood, it's still bad.
The community, the people need help because food ain't going up. They need help with food. They need help with furniture. They need help even having a ride transportation to get them here to there. This small town, Rutherford, everybody ain't got transportation. Ain't no Uber here, ain't no Lyft here, ain't no cabs here to get them here, there. The jobs is very slim here because, you ain't had many jobs here. And then they got to go to another town to get some kind of work and all like that there. So, they need just blessings financial. Anybody need blessings financial to be able to if somebody bless me and say, Diane, I ain't gonna give you the money, but I sure go buy you some furniture and get you something to ride in. I'll be happy. You ain't gotta give me no money. Just give me the necessary stuff I need to get around.
My mom had passed, and that was their property. So we finally getting in the process where we getting that back rebuilt. But even that's been a long process. It's like everything was gun ho when it first happened. Now this stuff is just seems like it's back to normal, where this town just was forgotten about before the storm. You get a lot of they say FEMA approved this for the streets, and I mean just no work being done. Yeah, you got the city workers sitting around I mean it's it's no, I don't see any. It just for a year to be for this to didn't happen a year ago, you'd think we'll be further along.
We've had businesses coming up and homes come up, but nothing downtown. We don't have a post office. We don't have any of the main buildings. None of them have even been in the process of rebuilding yet. So we're a year in and they have not moved forward. So that is discouraging, but we are hoping soon they'll start the process, but we will see. So we don't have City Hall. We don't have a tax assessor's office. It's still all out of trailers. So no rebuilding yet downtown.
Because when you don't work 30-some years, and then when you ain't able to work, you ain't able to get the stuff that you need. So just going to get your hair fixed. I used to be able to do those things, pay to go get my hair done and all like that. Now, I lost a whole lot, but I still got faith in God that everything will work out. But I just ask anybody that can help the town of Rollingport. I'm not, I know I am just one person and I need help. But there's many people out here in Rolling Fork just like myself that need help. And I don't be selfish to ask for myself, I ask for my whole community. Because we still are struggling. And every time I just think about her, I said, Lord, thank you for waking me up this morning. Give me eyes to see, ears to hear, and tongue to speak out. Because I know, it's not my time. But he gonna send somebody my way to help us.
In the midst of devastation, loss, and pain, the faith that these people, as well as others, serves as a light in the darkness and a way to heal when a shadow was casted over Rolling Fork, Mississippi on March 24th, 2023. While there is hope, there are still some reminders of that night as of March 24th, 2024, within the memories of the people, in addition to the unfamiliar look of the town. We hope that not only does this documentary serve as a reminder to people around the world that this storm happened, we hope overall that this documentary encourages everyone to genuinely strive to stick together like a family at all times, to remember that every moment counts with the ones that you love as well as care about, to do right by others as you always want justice pertaining to yourself, and to always have faith no matter what you see in front of your very eyes. This documentary is the definition of walking by faith and not by sight. So if you're watching this, the team at Groundbreaker Productions encourages you to see the light even in the shadow of your own storms. Psalm 23, 1-6. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.